Today is Tuesday, November 13, 2018, and we'll be discussing the third quarter of 2018 outlined in the Tennessee Quarterly Business Economic Indicators Report. The report's published through a partnership between my office and the University of Tennessee Knoxville Center for Business and Economic Research. Joining me today is Dr. William F. Fox, who serves as the center's director. The report offers a snapshot of the state's economy based on business data from the Division of Business Services. Let me begin by saying data this quarter indicates initial business filings in Tennessee continue to grow, now year over year for 28 consecutive quarters. Business Services processed 10,709 new entity filings in the third quarter of 2018. That's up 14.8% from the same time period in 2017. New filings of foreign entities saw the strongest growth, increasing 23.3%. And the last point I'll make is domestic firms accounted for 84.3% of all new entity filings. We will take questions shortly, but for now I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Fox. Dr. Fox, take it away.
Mr. Secretary, thank you very much. Let me say that the data this quarter are very impressive and illustrate very, very good growth in Tennessee. We in fact have had the fastest 2 quarters in the history of this data we're looking at during the last 2 quarters, and indeed the third quarter was the fastest in the history of the data. And so a very, very good quarter in terms of economic growth. It was strong in the 4 biggest counties in Tennessee with over 10% growth. And after all, again, in the last decade, we've only had 4 of the 40 quarters have 10% growth rate or higher. And so the 4 key counties there, 4 biggest counties, did very well. But the news is, and in fact, growth was faster outside of those 4 counties. And we see places like Morristown and Cleveland and Jackson where employment growth has been very strong and economic growth. And so we're seeing diverse economic performance across Tennessee, again, with the 4 largest counties doing well, but other counties doing even better than that. It's consistent with a state that now has an unemployment rate hovering right around 3.5%. It was 3.6 in the most recent data, with employment growth still above 2% and still much faster than the national average. And so, Mr. Secretary, I think there's very good news in the data that your agency collected during this past quarter.
Well, Dr. Fox, thank you for your assistance in compiling all of this. Really appreciate the value add that you and the Bureau give to this data. So with that, let's open up for questions.
This is Mike Miller from WTC. Do you have any ideas why Hamilton County would have led the way?
Well, Hamilton County has seen very good economic growth over the last several years. While those of us who've been around Tennessee a long time are used to saying, well, it's Nashville that's growing fastest. In fact, it's been the Chattanooga area that has led the state in many of the recent months and quarters of data that we track. And as you know, there is a diverse set of factors that are leading to that growth in southeast Tennessee. You think of places like VW that have continued to expand, Walker and Amazon in Bradley County and other things. I mean, it continues to be a leader, and it's not a one-off here. It's been true for several years.
Yes, Dr. Fox, Richard Levitt to WJCW Radio in Johnson City, Tri-Cities. Do you see anything out on the horizon that's going to indicate a slowdown coming, any of this growth?
Well, I don't expect to see growth as robust in 2019 as we've had in 2018. But I think we need to keep in mind what I'm talking about is slowing from very fast growth to good growth. And so that I don't see anything in the near term to suggest a recession. We can all imagine things that could lead to one, but I think in very strong likelihood we continue through 2019 with economic expansion underway, and by May of next year, this will be the longest economic expansion in the post-World War II history of the U.S. And so it's now very strong economic growth and prolonged growth.
Dr. Fox, that's an important distinction you make about the growth. As you continue to have quarters like we've had, it gets harder to continue to outdo those at the same pace. It's going to be interesting a year from now when we look at this probably being the best quarterly report we've had. It's going to be tough to outdo that one in 12 months.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Secretary. You just can't have higher growth rates on higher growth rates. Remember, we're talking about almost 15% increase in the number of businesses. I mean, that's extraordinary in a state where we're getting a little over 1% population growth. And so what it tells you is that the state, as you and I have talked about before, is being very entrepreneurial. That's a big part of what's taking place here. But also, we have found this startup of businesses as a good leading indicator for future growth. These businesses, they're going to hire people, they're going to produce jobs and wages, and the outcome of that is better growth or continued good growth as we go through 2019.
Further questions?
When you say entities, could you be a little more specific? What kind of business entities? Some ideas for people who are wondering, like, what kind of businesses are these specifically?
Well, no, that's not in the data that we collect. So whenever someone comes to us and starts an LLC or LLP or corporation, we don't know what type of company that is unless we can glean it from the name, but still we don't distill the information down that way. Now, Dr. Fox, you may have data from something else that you'd be able to speak to that, but I wouldn't want to put you on the spot.
Right. I don't have any data that goes directly to the question of the businesses themselves. If we look at job creation and the areas in which economic growth are taking place, in Tennessee, we can see, for example, that leisure and hospitality, things linked back to tourism, have been extraordinarily robust over the last year. We saw over 5% growth in employment in the most recent quarter in that industry, and so clearly a lot happening there. But then when you get below that, what we see is the best growth rates in professional and business services, in education and in health care. And so other than in leisure and hospitality, what we're seeing is a lot of growth in those companies and those industries that require a better educated workforce. And so it emphasizes again the importance of Tennessee remaining on track in being a leader in terms of education policy around the country.
Further questions? Well, we appreciate you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The announcement about Nashville, the Amazon announcement today about the new center there, any idea how that will affect things in the next quarter, or just in general?
When the idea of Nashville being the headquarters for Amazon came up, I got interviewed a few times on that, and my response was, I think Nashville would be a great location for it. Admittedly, we're not on the East Coast, but in terms of the ability to attract a really good labor force, in terms of quality of life, Nashville had a bunch of the characteristics that were necessary. And so I was a little disappointed when the suggestions came out that it was going to be Crystal City in New York. But what this evidence is exactly what I thought, which is Nashville offers a lot to a new business that wants to be able to attract a labor force. I'm sure we don't have 5,000 workers sitting unemployed in Nashville that Amazon could hire right away. But what we do have is the kind of quality of life and the kind of higher education system in Middle Tennessee to help build that kind of a labor force. And so, it'll be great for the Tennessee economy generally. I don't know the time frame on that. I'm sure they're not going to have 5,000 jobs there anytime really soon. But what that really is a strong vote of confidence in the Nashville area and in Tennessee as a good place to do business. And my point has always been about when you get the announcement and the location by really visible businesses that the world knows, that the country knows, and they say, we want to be in Tennessee, that's just a great signal for the state as a whole and gets other firms looking.
Well, we appreciate your participation in the call and look forward to having y'all back again in 3 months. Thank you again. If we can assist you, let us know.